India has come a long way. In the 90s, my biggest concern was the export of the Indian capital markets. That we had a flurry of issuances of Indian companies listing at Luxembourg. And we did not even have the concept of a private placement in India. And it bothered me a lot that Indian companies were listing in a completely unknown exchange with virtually no trading, but companies preferred that to public issuances. From there to now say that we have one of the most active markets, probably highest in terms of number of transactions, to any global player anywhere in the world being able to trade on Indian exchanges, it's a huge step forward. The quality of the equity markets and now the depth of the equity markets should make all of us feel great. But beyond that, I think the debt market has more work to be done. And I think time has come for us to dramatically up our ambition. The financial sector should be the engine which supports India's aspiration. And I'm looking forward to India becoming a 30 trillion economy by 2047. And what does it take for us to get there, and what is the role of the financial sector as we go into that journey? I think two major areas where India can do more as the Indian financial sector. One is significant capacity building and addition to the private equity industry in India. Bulk of the private equity financing today is happening by global private equity operating in India. And a lot of them take their leverage outside India because leverage in India is not available to them. So we really need to do two things: dramatically increase Indian private equity firms to get larger. And second is we must get comfortable and confident that Indian banks and financial institutions have underwriting capacity and capability, and they don't need to be excessively protected from the business, which will be crucial for India's growth as we go forward.
So you're essentially talking about regulatory changes to ensure that happens.
My view is that this is over time. India must have the ability to get to scale both in banking and in the corporate sector.
You know, since we're talking about scale and not just in the banking sector, Mr. Kotak, I want to understand from you how you see the landscape changing. You know, we've just seen this big HDFC Bank deal go through. Do you believe we're on the cusp of seeing a significant amount of consolidation across sectors in India today?
I think we are seeing a lot of consolidation in many sectors as I speak with you. And there cannot be a better platform than to talk about the telecom sector consolidation. You've seen it. You're down to 2.5 players, 2.5 serious players in the telecom sector. You look at the airline industry. I mean, it's consolidated phenomenally. You look at the steel industry. It's consolidated significantly. And essentially, two big players have a disproportionate market share. Therefore, sector after sector, you're seeing consolidation and concentration in fewer hands. I'm not against consolidation as long as we keep the competitive intensity in place. So if you compare banking to these sectors, let me ask you the question: do we have too many banks or too few banks?
I asked you that question to start with. Which camp do you belong to?
My view is it's not about quantity. It's about quality and making sure there is enough competition. If you look at most of the developed markets, you have got now seriously 5 or 6 significantly large players, and then a whole host of smaller players and niche players and specialized players. I think India needs to get more in that direction, and at the same time the niche and the smaller players can bring up the competitive element. I think the whole digital revolution is changing the landscape of financial services. Most of us here think about financial services as domain. More and more we need to start thinking about it as technology plus domain.